My name is Ross Mula, and welcome to part two of Other People's Experiences at University Behavioral Center. Let's begin. A week ago, as a mental health professional in the community, I would never offer or recommend this facility as an option based on client and patient stays. Staff is unprofessional and unethical. 3 weeks ago, I stayed here for maybe 9 days a few years ago as a result of a Baker Act. Didn't like it, not at all. When I was sharing during group, the person leading the group session was extremely rude and accused me of having anxiety attacks for attention. Frustrating to have someone say something like that to you in front of everyone when, one, they don't know you and this is the first time you're interacting, and two, they're supposed to help you. The reason some people don't get help is because they're accused of seeking help for attention. Like, no, I need help. Very discouraging and accomplished the opposite of what this stay was supposed to do for me. No help at all. Word of advice to staff: if you don't like your job, get another one. Don't antagonize patients who are already going through a lot. If you're doing that, any job involving helping people is not for you. Food wasn't very good, doctors were indifferent. The whole thing felt like being in jail. Pretty bad experience overall. I think this hospital and Aspire, formerly Lakeside, need to be investigated. A month ago, a family stayed here for a couple days. It was the absolute worst. Staff is very unprofessional, mocking patients and threatening to sedate them, making comments about how don't enjoy working there. Mental illness is a very serious matter and the staff thinks it's a joke. Again, very unprofessional. This facility should be reported. Save yourselves from attending this place or having any of your loved ones stay there. A month ago, according to the HIPAA law, you are violating it. Yeep. You can't charge anything for Baker Act. It's the law. The law says it's free. Need people who want to suit this place with me. Incompetent, incompetent, incompetent. They treat people like money sign H something 7 exclamation point. The doctor never contacted my daughter's psychiatrist and want to experiment with her with medication that can cause sudden death. They put children to sleep on the floor mat. They are not hands-on. They treat patients like guinea pigs. It is a business, not a treatment center. Incompetent, incompetent. See reviews and you know you are a horrible place full of incompetent. Read the reviews. You haven't do anything to improve your dad. Incompetent. This is the third time my daughter is being there. Incompetent, incompetent, incompetent. You are a business and read your reviews. Your business should be closed. Incompetent, incompetent, incompetent. You're thieves. You're thieves. A month ago, this has got to be the absolute worst facility in the state. Absolutely no communication when involving a minor child. Not one phone call from a doctor or therapist in an entire week. I will be reporting this facility to everyone and anyone I can, including the governor's office. Save your family and stay away from this place. A month ago, nobody in that place is on the same page. The place is extremely unsanitary. All the nurses and techs do is complain and need better training to deal with mental health patients. You never know what somebody is going through and you have to respect that, and they barely do. On top of that, they always get your hopes up to say you're getting released the next day just to calm you down and crush your hopes the next day. Don't ever do anything to get yourself locked up in this place. Trust me, it sucks. A month ago, to call University Behavioral Center an absolute joke would be a gross understatement. After being sent there by the hospital that I checked myself into the ER, my mental health only took a huge decline from being there, and I now suffer trauma just from the experience. From the moment you walk in, you are treated like a prisoner rather than a patient. Dirty living conditions, no communication between staff and patients, failure to deliver medications I have been on for years. The list goes on. You are allowed to see a psychiatrist at a very specific time early in the morning, and the whole visit lasts about 3 minutes, with no counseling or otherwise offered. Every other minute of the day is spent just sitting around with your own thoughts. It was almost impossible to contact anyone outside through the 3 or so phones they have for about 50 patients, and half the time the line wouldn't work. Anyone who was trying to contact me was left hanging on hold or told they couldn't talk to me, even when I had given them all the necessary info to do so. The staff is hostile at best, the nurses doing anything besides their job and refusing to have any sort of interaction. When I was discharged, the only resolution offered after the entire ordeal was to call the therapist I had already tried back in my home state. This was several weeks ago, and I am in no better of a place than I was when I checked in, but now I know to apparently not seek help because this is what it gets you. 7 months ago. This place is a business. Their goal is to keep you there as long as they can. If you don't have PTSD going in, you probably will on release. The staff during my time there was unprofessional, to say the least. They were bullies. On some level, it seemed as if they were working with their long-term patients or multi-visit patients to manipulate and terrorize new patients. The men and women shared areas. I was under constant ogling and fear of being accosted by the male patients and staff members. Every night I was there, I was awakened to male staff members pulling my blankets down as I slept. They'd leave the room startled when I'd awaken. This happened so often I began sleeping in a sitting up position in the corner of where my bed touched the wall. Myself and other patients began sleeping in shifts to keep an eye out for each other as to not be bothered by other patients or staff as we slept. Whenever the staff methods were questioned, it would lead to retaliation against whatever patient had the issue. If you question things, you're met with responses of, "We can keep you," and this is a quote, "we can keep you here as long as we want. We could say what we want, so you will have to be put in front of a judge who will tell you are mentally incompetent, even if you aren't," end quote. I was released when I explained to the doctor that if they didn't release me, I'd lose my job, making me lose my insurance, hence they wouldn't get paid. Magically, the door swung open the next day after being trapped for a week. If that doesn't yell crooked, I don't know what does. Don't send your family here unless you want them traumatized. I wouldn't send my worst enemy here. This is a place that doesn't care about healing. It wants to make or keep people sick. Their goal is to keep you incoherent and overly medicated. 7 months ago, I'd give 0 stars if I could. My ex-girlfriend was admitted here Sunday evening and released Tuesday afternoon, 1 p.m. She was Baker acted as she had been binge drinking, offered bipolar medication in a manic state, and threatened to kill herself. She received 1 full day of treatment, which consisted of 3 groups she attended, hardly rehabilitation for any patient under their care. They had her on meds for 1 day before releasing her. They called me the morning they were going to release her with any concerns her mother or I had. We listed many concerning issues she had, and they still released her. 8 months ago, I would give this 0 stars if I could. I would not recommend sending anyone here. 10 months ago, when I came here as a child, depression and suicidal thoughts. I thought I would be getting help. Instead, it turned into one of the worst experiences of my childhood. The staff members would make fun of special needs patients. They would talk very loudly at night, laughing and goofing off at all hours. I was targeted and made fun of by a staff member for asking for earplugs due to the fact that she felt disrespected. The only pleasant person there was the nurse. She was really sweet. This place failed to rehabilitate and actually contributed to my dislike for therapy and institutions. You all are supposed to be helping children and adults with behavioral, social, and mental issues. If you are a patient with a child who may need to be admitted to this facility, please reconsider this place. Do your research. I also remember seeing how they treated the adults. We saw them briefly during lunchtime, and it was like a prison. These people need help, not to feel punished every day. I sincerely hope this place has changed because children who need mental help should not be bullied by healthcare workers. My husband voluntarily admitted himself here for alcoholism, detox, and it was a huge mistake. After hours of being there, they wouldn't give him an antacid, let alone any meds to help with the withdrawal. As a nurse practitioner, I know the dangers of withdrawal. He attempted to get an antacid, but was told he, quote, wasn't in the system yet, so he had to wait in line, end quote. He was just admitted activity withdrawing, and they neglected to take proper care of him. I left my husband in their hands, and they left him physically withdrawing. The excuse was that he needed an assessment before meds given, and that one nurse is passing out meds to other patients. This is neglectful and can have dangerous outcomes. It was more stressful trying to reach the nursing supervisor, Nancy at the time, whom, after some doing, reassured me she was getting him what he needed. That did not happen. He was in distress when he called me, making me very uncomfortable with his care. I went there to bring him to a different facility. When I got there, I dealt with hours of nonsense, getting the runaround, not being allowed to talk to anyone but this one person and the charge nurse, Nancy, procrastinating and requesting to speak to administrative, and was told they can't call them after hours. Apparently, they neglected to inform my husband I arrived, and when he asked to call to make sure I am okay, he was told it was shift change. In the end, I had to call 911 for them to release him. He voluntarily went in, and now they are holding him against his will. Once I placed that call, he ironically was released within 5 minutes. Not patient-centered, unfriendly staff, neglectful, and you should hear what the staff say as they are leaving. Definitely are not aware of their surroundings. I'd give it no stars if that was an option. A year ago, translated by Google. Hello, I am very concerned about this place. I stopped by calling all day yesterday to know how to do a patient. The nurses did not give me an answer. First, they told me that the patient is fine, that she is interacting, talking. Later, when I called again to speak with him, the doctor who is handling the patient's case tells me that he is not available. Then I called again and they told me that he was at lunch. After I called after 5 in the afternoon, I returned and called at that time, and they transferred me, and they transferred me for about 45 minutes. All of a sudden, a nurse who is treating me answers, and I clearly hear that from behind someone tells her to cut the call. She told her 3 times, and then the nurse who was treating me was silent after the person who told her to cut me off the call. She said in English, "Right now." And the nurse who was on the phone attending to me cut me off the call, and I said, my God, there is something bad happening there, because they do, and if he does not answer you, they transfer you. There is no one who speaks Spanish, and the worst thing is that when I was able to communicate for the last time, they told me to wait until the next day for the doctor, who arrived today, to approve if he was going to let out the patient or not. They took a full day. I think strange things are happening in that place. I demand that today they give me back my patient who is in that place. A year ago, awful and terrifying experience. Had my PTSD invalidated by a tech who said it's just in my head. Some of the techs don't care and are just there for their check. Was told I would speak to psychiatrists on a Sunday, and they left me there for 2 hours waiting, only to be told, oh, he went home already. Couldn't speak to a therapist after begging them for that whole day. Locking people up with certain mental conditions just makes things worse. It's not always the answer. This whole system is so corrupt. What happened to humanity? Last review is taken down because I expressed my true feelings, so I will leave this one professional. These problems have been going on at this facility for quite some time. I've read reviews from a week ago to a year ago, and this is part 2 of this series. I've got 2 more parts lined up that I'm going to go ahead and record today, and they'll premiere at a later date and time. My name is Ross Miola. This has been Other People's Experiences at University Behavioral Center, part 2. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more content.